how to make a Caldera cone from foil platters. It's very Blue Peter. So yes, these were made with, as I said, foil platters, these things, and all that I did, and I will now show you in the gallery what I did, because unfortunately I didn't take video, I took pictures of the process. So what I did was cut off the corners of the platter. You'll find that they've got these edges on there, and I used bigger ones than these, which is the pizza platters from the range. You want the biggest ones you can get, because you can use pie dishes, as I did on one of them. You know, this part, because I ran out of this, but this is thicker aluminium. Now you might say, oh, why don't you just go, Tim, why don't you just go and buy some aluminium? You'd be amazed how expensive aluminium foil. I mean, you can make something like this out of titanium foil, or titanium sort of very thin sheet. You want kind of like 0.02, 0.01, nothing, certainly nothing bigger than 0.1, because you want to be able to cut it with scissors, unless you happen to have, if you've got tin snips, have at it, you know, but I don't. And so we cut off the edges of the pizza platter, then flattened it with a roller, a rolling pin, or anything that's sort of round and heavy. I've seen people use those for socket sets, those metal things or anything like that. And to create the cone shape, I used a tool. There are many tools to do this. The tool that everyone points you to doesn't work. Or it doesn't work for me, the website isn't working. If you look in the doobly-doo, there'll be a link to the one I used to create the cone shape, because you need to create an angle, because obviously you've got to, you know, if you were just wrapping it round, then just cut a square, but you actually have to cut it as sort of a certain angle. It's maths, and I don't do well with maths at all, so use that tool. And what I did was then print out the shape on my printer, stick it together with some Pritt stick, stuck it onto the foil platter with Pritt stick. Now, you just need something to keep it there. I suppose you could tape it, but you know, anything. And then cut it out. Unfortunately, in my case, I couldn't find, I mean, it depends on the size of your cut. What you would put into the tool is the top size. So you measure the diameter of the top, and also you want to measure how high this height as well. So you want that diameter, which in this case I think was, again, I would add a little bit more, because I did it exactly. I did like 11.6, and this was I think 18 or something like that. And so you want to measure that, so your stand plus the height of the cup, so it reaches the top. So it reaches the top of the thing. So you want to cover this, and then have a cone effect that funnels, in a Caldera cone, funnels the heat up. I then had to do it in two parts, so hence why you've got this join here. And I used the same. What I use is this copper tape, slug tape. It's just what I had, and I don't know if it's plastic backed, so you might see if it bursts into flames. It didn't when I was using it just now, so hey. But yeah, you don't necessarily have to do that if you manage to get the edges correct. If you've got to do it in multiple pieces, I think you can use aluminium flashing tape. Obviously it has to be heat proof, whatever you use, just to join it. As I said, you can just bend over the edges. What I did was bend over a bit like where the cans are made. You bend over one part and the other part, and then you lock them, you push them together, so you've got like a fold over strip, and a fold over strip the other way, and then you roll them together, and you use the roller, and then you press them together. I found that they didn't stay together, maybe because I didn't have a heavy enough, or I'm not really sure why, hence the tape. When you're doing that, the basic mistake I made, which is why there's this piece in the centre, which actually was quite fortuitous because then it became a place for the handle. I didn't adjust for the fact that when you've got the two bits doing that, they are overlapping. I didn't adjust for the overlapping section. So when you're doing it, make sure when you cut it, leave two strips. You don't cut it to the exact cone shape. Leave a strip down the side for the overlap, but then another one. So you're going sort of extra, or in your design, allow for the centimetre strip. So make it. If you know you're going to have several parts, make sure you've got enough extra in each of the strips if you're having to do it multiple bits for the overlap. Because that's the reason why I had to put this section in, because actually with the different overlaps, it took up enough space that actually it wouldn't fit properly. So we had to, on both of these, because I don't learn, we had to put that bit extra in to compensate for the the lost bits of the overlap. And then I punctured holes in it, because although it's a windshield, you do need to get some air into it. Usually in a Caldera cone, there are bits at the top and the bits at the bottom. And I can use a hole punch if you've got one that will, one of those single hole punches. I've got a drill bit for creating holes in wood, and I just used that and then rolled each side to get rid of some of the sharp bits. If you're doing it with the thinner foil, I'd be careful about that, because it obviously could rip around those places, maybe reinforce it somehow. Or if you're using thinner foil, the only thing you do is fold over the foil twice to give it more reinforcement. Of course, it can just fold up. Sadly, because you can do them in two parts, or maybe fold them in half and try and put in your pot. I've seen people do that, split Caldera cone. You could do that if you think of a way of attaching the two parts together. I just did it in one part, and I'll just sort of fold it and put it into my pack. Or maybe I'll work out a way of... Now I've shown it to you, I didn't want to fold it all up and mess it up a bit, because it loses its shape a bit. But now I've done that, I could fold it up, and maybe it'll fit in the pot. That's one of the problems with the traditional Caldera cone. The one you can spend sort of 50, 100 quid getting. The titanium version is over 100 quid. I think you have to import it in from America, and I think the Trail Designs aluminium version, and it has to be custom made to your pot. And that's the reason why doing this with aluminium foil is better, because then you can make several versions. This is for the titanium pot, this is for that pot. And by the way, this one's called Silver Dalek, and this is called R2-Q2, after the silver droid in Star Wars, because it looks very Star Warsy with his little side bits. And this reminded me of a Silver Dalek. Yeah. So yes, that's how you create your own Caldera cone. I'll link to the videos for making the stand. There are so many videos out there, and there's lots of videos about making your own Caldera cone. A lot of them make it a lot more complex than it really is. It's a very simple process of just basically getting a cone shape, not screwing up the overlaps, and then just sort of cutting it out with scissors and assembling it and put the holes in. It's not a complicated thing. Some people out there have got like whole videos of using tin snips with aluminium flashing, which is very expensive in this country, and like jigs and drilling holes and stuff. It's complicated. 9 children, seriously.